The next presenter is going to be DrHappySithole, and he'll be presenting on, he says it's outcompute to outcompete.
Okay, thank you. Madam Minister and Deputy Minister and CSIR President and colleagues. As the video already indicated, I would like to share with you just some of the developments on HPC in South Africa. And Minister, I think since the last time when we visited CHPC in 2008, there will be some few new things that happened since that time, and hopefully that in this short space of time I'll be able to share with you. First thing is that this machine was not there, but what is interesting is that, as you can see, as South Africans, we can see there are two different types of machines here, and it's not normally allowed, but we took this machine that we launched in 2008 and we broke the rules, and then we put in another different machine. So this is more local integration capabilities, and this machine, after we built it, it was on the top 500 supercomputers, and it has been producing cycles for our scientists, 97.4% of cycles. We've got over 600 users from different universities and different scientific domains. And we're not just focusing on providing the machine, we're also looking at developing human capital for the country. And our human capital development program spans from undergraduate all to established researchers. And we also have got annual events on high performance computing, which attracts interest from international partners who come to these meetings. But also at the same time, since the center was founded, there has been increased publications and student output from our South African researchers on HPC related field. But more importantly, as we said, outcompute to outcompete, there also has been some gradual uptake by our own South African industries on HPC. And some of the areas that we've been focusing on, primarily driven by the challenges that the Department of Science and Technology have looked at, like for an example on climate change, working together with our other collaborators and the South African Weather Services. The whole idea here is to be able to have better climate prediction. And one of the things that we've been looking at together with some of the multinationals is to also include more appropriate carbon budget model for our climate modeling. And this is one of the developments that have been coming on, and also on energy security, on development of our batteries. But one of the things that I would also like to highlight here is that we also look at developing technologies here in South Africa. And what you can see here in this simulation is some of the advancement. Normally you are able to look at the structural and fluids when you design things like aircrafts. And most of the applications did not have these things that we can be able to look at them at the same time. And the simulation that I was showing here, this is a simulation by Airbus using our technology that we developed here in South Africa, but it is able to show them that you can have the effect on the wind, on the airplane wing, and at the same time you can see on the deformation of the wing at the same time. I know immediately when I talk about this, somebody thinks about the Dreamliner. The failures on the Dreamliner were not structural issues. It was more electronic. So the computing part played its role. And some of the things that we've been looking at when the SKA dishes were developed, one of the things is what is going to be the electromagnetism in the shape of the dish. And these are some of the things that we did locally with the investment that you put in. And other things that we're also looking at is on the health area, where we have got a number of portfolio of projects on health. But the outputs that the scientists look at here in terms of the visualization does not end here only. We're also looking at the animation industry in South Africa, and up to this point, there has been 2 animation movies that have been rendered here in South Africa, and we helped those companies to be able to do the first rendering of those movies. And at the moment, we're looking at growing a number of young animators who can also help in the education sector by providing more content that we can be able to help the education department on that. So these are the broad range of areas that we have been working on. And the other things that we have been also looking at is also on the data that is being produced by the scientists. And up to this point, if you look at some of this is public data that we have helped the scientists to be able to put together the data and be able to share the data. Like this one is more on the climate modeling. This is on the South African Earth Observation Network. But this other one also shows our collaboration with international partners here, where we have got data coming from NASA, and our scientists are able to access it here and not put too much strain on our bandwidth. But the other interesting one here that we have been working with the Children's Hospital, the Red Cross Children's Hospital, is to look at the effect of the rheumatic heart disease. And this data that has been collected at the Western Cape, that we have been running it as a pilot. And here the doctors, they said, we have got a lot of data, how can you help us to be able to analyze this? And this is one of the pilot that we actually have set some time that we will be presenting at DST on the implementation that has been done at Red Cross. The intention is to be able to use this in all the hospitals in South Africa. And we are not just focused on ourselves. We're also looking at international contribution on HPC. And what you see here is our participation on the grid facility for the Large Hadron Collider. And we are officially a Tier 2 facility in South Africa, providing computational cycles for the LHC. But the importance in this is also was to demonstrate that South Africa can be able to host large-scale science projects and be able to produce in the run-up to the SKA, because one of the doomsayers has always been saying, will South Africa be able to produce this data and share with the rest of the world? And with this, we can be able to show that we can do that. And also, we're not just looking at that, we're looking at how do we help our African colleagues. And this has been one of the things that we have been pushing. Since 2009, we had the discussion with all the SADC countries, and at a later stage that the report was adopted by the SADC ministers to develop high performance computing in SADC. And I'm glad to say just now, yesterday I was in Zambia and talking to other countries like Botswana and Tanzania, that we are putting some of the HPC facilities in Tanzania, and we're not using our South African money, Minister. It's our engagement with the different countries that we have managed to convince one center in the US, which has got this machine. It's still on a top 500, but we convinced them that we can chop it apart and deliver it to different African countries, and at the same time deliver the human capital development. This primarily will be looking at universities that don't have any HPC facilities, but will link up with the countries that are part of the square kilometer array also to develop the high performance computing, but also to deliver the project. But the other thing that I would like to share is here, that as our development on human capital development, we practice the philosophy that catch them whilst they're still young. So we realize that most of the researchers that are dealing with are gray hair and they already have got research program, they want to use HPC. It's very difficult. But we want to groom young scientists. and started undergraduate. What you see here is undergraduate students. These are second year students. We help them build a computer right from scratch. And after they put the computer, they are able to use it to do some simulations. So basically put it in production at the second year level. And these students here, we did this competition here locally. And in June, we went to Germany, where all the rest of the countries were participating in this competition, where their students were building this. And I'm glad to say that in that competition, South African students were able to demonstrate that not only that we can put together the computers, but we can make them work. And that's what made us to win. So these are some of the demonstrations that the capabilities are growing in the country. And we are very grateful of this support from the Department of Science and Technology, and hope that we can be able to push this. And at the moment, I was reading one email yesterday. We are participating in the Science Data Processing Consortium for the Square Kilometer Array, and the initial evaluation came out, and the bid that was put was very strong, that South Africa will be able to lead a number of the work packages on HPC, especially on the development of the technology that will be leading to exascale computing. So these are some of the things that we have been busy with, Minister, and hope that at some point we can have more time to share with your team about the development. Thank you.